I was the man. I was the epitome of cool. Hey. That's right. I was a first-year law student. I was living in New York City, and I was attending a law school that was so far out of my league that just the fact that I had been accepted there caused my ego to expand to such a point it could only be described as having gone full Kanye. See, I didn't have the best grades or the highest test scores, so I was convinced the only reason the school had let me in was that they had looked at my resume and come to the conclusion that I was the most interesting man in the world. Which is understandable. I had done a lot of unpaid internships. I had also worked as a translator in a migrant worker clinic, and I was already a semi-professional stand-up comedian. You can call yourself semi-professional if you've been paid at least once. And yes, soda and popcorn count as payment. So as you can tell, my self-esteem was doing pretty well, until I actually met many of my classmates. These people had gone to amazing schools, Harvard, Yale, Hogwarts. Come on, you know they got a good pre-law program at Slytherin. Okay, those of you who understood that, you can explain it to the muggles after the show. But not only had these people gone to amazing schools, they had done amazing things. One of the people in my class was the daughter of a U.S. vice president. You might remember her father. He actually won the election in 2000. But my self-esteem took a beating also because I quickly realized that I was not as prepared for law school as I thought. Many of my classmates were incredibly competitive. It was a lot like being in that movie, what was it, The Hunger Games. And just to be clear, I definitely wasn't Katniss. I wasn't even Peeta. No, I was Rue. Some people had some sad memories from that. It's all right, I'm okay. But then, as I was feeling really sad for myself and my ego was crushed, I came upon what I thought at the time was a golden opportunity that would help my self-esteem, help my grades, and most importantly, help me get laid. Because there was a woman in one of my classes. She was a goddess. Actually, she was 5'1" in heels, so a little small for a goddess, but still. Put it this way, I was not a spiritual man, but when I looked at her, I could believe in intelligent design. Because only a superior being could have put that many curves in such a small body and then combined that body with the most impressive mind I had ever met. She, of course, only wanted to be friends. And I was okay with that. No, really, I was. Because she was so cool, I was glad just to have her as a friend, especially in such an isolating, cutthroat environment like law school. But, and if there are any other guys who ever were the friend, you can attest this, you also hold out that hope that just all you need is one opportunity to really impress her. And so when she came to me and asked if I would be interested in volunteering with her at a legal aid program for victims of domestic violence, I said yes. And at the training for this program, they asked if anybody would be able to represent clients who only spoke Spanish. I immediately raised my hand. And the goddess looked at me and she said, "Wow, are you sure? I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that." And I thought, yes, I have officially impressed her. What I should have recognized was that the universe was officially sending me a warning that I was about to do something incredibly stupid. Because one thing I knew from our many conversations together was that she spoke much better Spanish than I did. She had even spent a year in high school living in Barcelona. I, on the other hand, was the product of public school Spanish. My senior year, all we did was watch movies, most of which weren't even in Spanish. They just starred Antonio Banderas. Now, it is true. In college, I took more classes, and I had worked as a translator at a clinic for migrant workers. But it is amazing how far you can get on first-year vocab. For like the time the doctor came to me and he said, "Would you please explain to this man that he has a rare blood disorder where his hemoglobin are not carrying enough oxygen throughout his body, but I'm going to give him some steroids which will increase his rate of respiration. He'll be fine." I, of course, then turned to the patient and in Spanish said, "Your blood is broken." But don't worry, the doctor is going to unbreak you and give you some nice drugs. Any doubts I had in my own abilities, I consoled myself with the thought, this is New York City. How many women here only speak Spanish? My phone rang the next day. I was assigned a Dominican woman who had a teenage daughter and was seeking a restraining order against her husband, who she said was abusing her. She already had a court date with family court, and my job was just to guide her through the process. Things did not go well. My initial phone call with her lasted over an hour. But I can recount for you the entire call right now in a few seconds by repeating the parts that I actually understood. "Hello, how are you? My husband's bad. My husband's bad. I think he fucked my sister. My husband's bad. That's why I hit him and he go to the hospital. My boyfriend said get a lawyer." Then, the only other part I understood was the last thing she said to me, because she said that in English, which was, "Sir, are you sure you speak Spanish?" Which was a fair question, especially since even the parts I thought I understood didn't make sense. She hit her husband? And what's this about a boyfriend? I would have asked for clarification, but at that moment, her husband suddenly came home and she quickly hung up the phone. And that I realized I have completely screwed up, because this woman is in real trouble and I am unprepared to help her. Not knowing what else to do, I kept her date with family court and hoped for a miracle. And I got one. Because when I got to family court that day, I worked legal magic. Actually, I did no such thing. The people at family court were terrific and apparently were very experienced in dealing with incompetent law students. They provided a translator. We went before the judge, got the restraining order. And afterwards, the woman thanked me profusely. And even though I really hadn't done anything, I felt great. I was now a semi-professional legal advisor. Because yes, gratitude counts as payment. But when I got home, I had a call from the Manhattan DA's office. "Mr. Wilks, this is Lou Cohen. I'm a prosecutor with the Special Victims Unit." A million Law and Order jokes ran through my head at that minute. Fortunately, I didn't say any of them, because he then followed up, "Mr. Wilks, do you realize that your client put her husband in the hospital? And she did this because he had the gall to ask her to stop seeing her boyfriend?" My first thought was, I knew she said boyfriend. Yes! Turned out that parts of the woman's story may not have held water, and that she was trying to use the restraining order against her husband to get sole custody of her daughter. Fortunately, she was not successful, but I was very aware that because of my mistakes, things could have gone very badly for her husband and the daughter. Fortunately, the prosecutor's office was able to resolve it, and I learned a valuable lesson. But something good also did come out of this. The goddess agreed to go out with me. She said, "You know, you really fucked up. But I saw how much you cared that you fucked up. And that mattered, because I originally thought you were doing all this just to try and impress me and get me into bed." What would give you that idea? Actually, I eventually did get her into bed. A couple times, in fact, including once on our wedding night. And this November, we will celebrate our 15th anniversary. Yeah. And I'm able to keep my marriage fresh by continuing to surprise my wife, by constantly finding new ways to fuck up.